Before we get to our terrific interview with Peter Rork of Dog Is My CoPilot, Nancy and I just wanted to celebrate the fact that we're already at episode 50.
In August 2015, Harold and I first thought of the idea for an animal rescue podcast.
We first started out by interviewing people here in Northern California, where we live. One of the first people we interviewed out of state was Christine Kavanaugh of the Aloft Hotel in downtown Asheville, North Carolina.
Then we decided to branch out and contact people globally. If we came across an inspiring animal rescue story on a Facebook posting or a news article, we contacted them. I remember around Thanksgiving time in 2014, I was watching the CNN Hero of the Year award ceremony hosted by Anderson Cooper. And that year, the Hero of the Year went to a man named Penn Farthing, who founded an animal rescue organization in Afghanistan. And as luck would have it, Penn Farthing came to one of our local libraries to give a talk. So Harold and I went, and we had a chance to talk to him. We struck up a conversation, and we asked him, would you be interested in being interviewed for our animal rescue podcast? And he immediately agreed.
50 episodes in, Nancy and I are just so proud to be able to share some incredible stories with you, some amazing stories. We've actually built a small community around the world. We're right now at around 93, 94 countries who tune in to our show. Ultimately, this podcast is for the animals. Where a lot of our inspiration comes from are simply the conversations that we've had sharing your stories with us about the animals in your lives. With that, we just want to say thank you
and on to the show.
One of the dogs had been able to chew his way out of the crate, and he just took off. It was probably about 110 degrees there, and I must have chased that dog for about 45 minutes. And then I thought, how is that going to look if I let a dog escape and I leave it at the airport?
This is Paw Print, an animal rescue community, episode 50. I'm Harold Ree.
And I'm Nancy Ree. Today's guest is the talented Peter Rork, co-founder and pilot for Dog Is My CoPilot. He and co-founder Judy Zimet have rescued several thousand dogs and cats by flying them from high-kill shelters such as in California to the Pacific Northwest and Rocky Mountain regions. I highly recommend listening to the entire interview. Peter's journey is pretty incredible. If you want to learn more about Dog Is My CoPilot, see some photos, or want to make a donation to an amazing cause, go to our show notes at thisispawprint.com/50. That's the number 50.
I was born and raised on the East Coast. I grew up in a New York City suburb in northern New Jersey. Was always interested in flying. I got my pilot's license when I was soloed when I was age 16. Got my license when I was 17. I hit all the kind of minimums on that. I always thought I'd have a career in aviation, but when I went to college, I was a fire was lit under me, and I got turned on by the sciences, and I ultimately had an opportunity to go to medical school, so I chose that instead. I was accepted to medical school a number of places on the East Coast. The University of Maryland is what caught my eye. It's right on Chesapeake Bay, Baltimore, interesting town. I worked my way through medical school as a pilot, first out of the BWI and then out of Lee Airport in Edgewater, Maryland, right outside of Annapolis. I did sightseeing tours. I did flight instruction. I did charter work. I mean, you name it. The people I worked for, understanding what my workload was in medical school, were very accommodating. So I could fly in the evening and I would fly all weekend long. And my students would be willing to change their schedule at the last minute if necessary. They wanted to fly with me. I wanted to fly with them. It's an interesting way of working your way through medical school. Ended up doing a hand surgery fellowship in Phoenix, kept my airplane going. I did a knee surgery fellowship in Tahoe. Still, my airplane kept tagging along with me like a stray dog. Ended up practicing in Sun Valley, Idaho for a couple of years before I relocated to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where I really made my career and practiced for 25 years as a knee surgeon and a hand surgeon. Towards the end of my professional career, I started fielding telephone calls from people who needed dogs transported. And I had an aircraft, and I had a lot of contacts. A lot of patients knew what I did. And so I would start flying the occasional dog from here to there. And there's a organization called Pilots and Paws, where there's a website, and you can sign up, and they'll request that you transport an animal either from A to B or as part of a chain, A to B to C to D. And I did that. That was interesting, although it's incredibly inefficient if you want to save animals and have any kind of impact. My wife and I would fly these missions once or twice a month, sometimes more often than that. Sadly, she died suddenly in 2012.
Oh.
That was it for me for medicine. After seeing what she went through, I couldn't even go back into the office any longer.
Oh, my.
So I contacted Judy Zimet, who was a friend of mine and an attorney who specializes in 501c3s. And I said, Judy, I want to start a nonprofit. I want to start flying animals. I want to start flying large number of animals. And I want you to help me try to figure it out and get the 501c3 so we could do it. And she was like on it. Oh, my gosh. We had our 501c3 within like 2.5 months, which has got to be a record. Started flying, and we started trying to figure out how we can do it most efficiently. I was flying a Cessna 206 at the time, which is a 6-seater, and I pulled all the seats out. We could put in as many as 84 cats, and basically we were flying the small dogs because we wanted to have larger number of animals that we could save. And if they were larger dogs, their crates would take up a lot of size. Now, on occasion, if the dogs traveled well in a vehicle, I would just let them sit up front with me, and they'd sit on my lap. But really, I'm a big dog kind of guy, and I have 2 rescues. Well, I did until last week. Sadly, I put it down one of my dogs.
Oh.
We decided if we're going to do this right, we have to move up in an aircraft. So we recently purchased a Cessna Caravan, and now we can carry up to 150 smaller dogs and maybe 100 big and medium-sized dogs. So we're really on the cusp of having this take off. We've been flying about 1,000 animals a year and doing this effort, and hopefully this year we'll be able to triple or even quadruple that. Now, we've created and fostered a lot of relationships, long-distance relationships, because when the shelters, and I even hesitate to call them shelters, because if you're killing otherwise healthy dogs, it's not much of a shelter for the animal.
Right.
So when we deal with the high kill facilities, we'll fly as many animals out of there. And if they're trying to transport the animals over a short distance to other rescue groups, if it's a 2 or a 3 hour ride in a van, I mean, that's great. But what our organization does is it really geographically opens up their opportunities. So we do a lot of transports from Roswell, New Mexico to Missoula, Montana, from Merced, California to Seattle, Washington, or Bremerton, from Scottsdale, Arizona to Boise, Idaho. And these are trips that are just not practical with 20 or 30 animals in a van. I mean, it'll take them 12, 14, 16 hours, and that's really tough on everybody. And so what we can do, we can knock those trips off in about 4.5 hours. So it opens up a whole new opportunity for these animals to be adopted. We never transport to a facility, a kill facility. They have to be non-kill. So we're rescuing these dogs who are on death row, basically, flying them 600, 700, 800 nautical miles, putting them in an area where they will never put down a healthy dog. We don't charge the senders or the receivers. We're a nonprofit. We rely strictly on donations to Dog Is My CoPilot. Lord knows the people who are working in the shelters that are receiving the animals are working on a shoestring budget anyway. You're involved in this. You've fostered dozens and dozens of animals.
Sure.
You've adopted so many dogs out of the shelters.
Sure.
Working with these people, it's a labor of love. There's
absolutely.
no money in it. I mean, I had no idea what nonprofit meant until I started one. And it is all-consuming, but it's something I committed myself to doing after my wife passed. And I told myself, I'm going to do it for 10 years. If I can't figure it out by then I'll never figure it out. But, I think I'm a pretty bright guy. Now we're 4 years into it. We're just really reaching that critical mass where it's never a problem of finding the animals to transport. It's always the difficulty is finding the groups that will accept these animals. I could fly 500 animals a week, but we just don't have the resources to accept those 500 animals a week because a lot of the animal rescue organizations have local problems of their own. But I will say that it is a much larger problem down in New Mexico and Arizona and the Central Valley of California and the Bay Area in Oakland and Alameda than it is in Portland or Seattle or Spokane or Sandpoint or Missoula or Helena or even Denver or Fort Collins. These are such animal-friendly communities. I mean, I'm not sure I really understand why it's a difference. Maybe it's a cultural thing. I don't know. But it's certainly, we don't fly animals from the north to the south. We travel from the south up to the north. So that's what we do. Now, with the new caravan, it was quite a financial commitment. I've got a very strong and supportive board for Dog Is My CoPilot. We're all on board to make sure that this is successful. We've done 3 or 4 flights now with the new aircraft. And every time I was sitting in my 206 and I had 30 or 35 crates that were stuffed into that smaller aircraft, including 3 in the seat right next to me.
Right.
And I only have like 18 inches to sit in. I'm wondering, I've got to do something better. It was my oldest daughter, Taylor, who is an attorney in the Seattle area, and she's very strong into the animal rights. She has rescued 3 dogs now. She said, Dad, just do it. Just do it. Go out and buy the bigger airplane. You're going to be so much more comfortable. So she was kind of that driving force, even though I knew that that's what we needed to do to really get this thing going. And now when I fly this much larger aircraft, it's just a pleasure. It's a turbine-powered single engine, and it's a hauler. And it was almost as if the aircraft was designed specifically for this purpose. And so we're excited about it. Our next flight is on Saturday from Casa Grande, Arizona, going up to Missoula and Kalispell, Montana.
What a concise recap, both of your life story, your medical career, and your start of this great organization, Dog Is My CoPilot. We're speaking to Peter Rork, one of the co-founders of Dog Is My CoPilot, and obviously you are the main pilot.
I am the chief cook and bottle washer. That's exactly right.
There you go.
We have... financially, I'm committed to this, and we run in the red every year, and I'm happy to step up. We've got some very generous supporters, but we have, dozens and dozens of very kind followers and very supportive individuals who really, it's a stretch for them to donate $5 a month or $10 a month. We have what we call a squadron membership, and you sign up with your credit card, and every month it charges $5. But when you have a budget of $180,000 a year, it takes a lot of $5 donors to get there.
Sure does.
We do have some people who donate larger amounts, but we get about 50% of the funding from donations directly to our organization. The rest of that kind of comes from within. So we're putting our money where our mouth is. We want to address this problem. And when you think about it, 10,000 animals are euthanized in this country every day. All right? Almost 4 million dogs and cats are euthanized. I'm sitting here, I'm talking, and I'm feeling proud about myself that I flew 1,000 animals last year. And I'm thinking, I'm not even scratching the surface. But you got to start scratching somewhere. Hopefully this year we'll be able to fly 4,000 animals. And as we learn how to become managing the resources that we have with the larger aircraft, it's great. I would love to have other pilots come in with an airplane and pay their own way. But they want to say, well, how are we going to pay for this? I said, the same way I pay for it. Just you open up your wallet,
right,
and here it comes. So we'll retain the second aircraft, the smaller one, for flying cats because it's much less expensive to operate than the turbine aircraft. But now that I can carry the big dogs, the 60, 80, and 100-pound dogs, I mean, I'm just so much happier about the whole expanse of dogs that we can carry.
Definitely not an airplane guy. So you upgraded from the Cessna to what's the name of the new plane?
We had a Cessna 206, and now we fly a Cessna 208.
Oh, okay.
The 206 has a name of Stationair, and this is a Grand Caravan.
Okay.
And the difference is in my 206, I could carry 6 people total. And in the Caravan, if I kept all the seats in, which I did not, I could transport 14 people.
Oh, sure.
So
huge difference.
It's it's huge. And it's just up to us to make sure that we manage these resources well and fill the aircraft every time, because this is what we want to do. We want to move the larger numbers, because the ones that don't make it onto the flight aren't going to make it.
Right.
We're taking these dogs and cats off of death row. The communities cannot absorb the large number of animals that are coming in to their facilities on a daily basis. This is not a dog problem. No, this is a people problem.
Sure.
And if people would just be smart about spay and neuter and just be better managers of the animals in the community, I mean, I would love to be put out of work, but I'm doing this full time now. I love what I do, but every time I fly a rescue flight, it's a failure somewhere in that chain of command. Mm-hmm. And if we could address the problem at the heart of the problem, that would be awesome.
To rewind just a little bit, I want to be sensitive to what you're willing to share. It sounds like the death of your wife was, to be honest, it just sounds so traumatic. What exactly happened that really caused you to essentially leave the medical practice?
Well, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and my practice was treating otherwise healthy athletes with injuries. I had very healthy and motivated individuals, and I was an ACL surgeon and a knee arthroscopist. And these people they expected to get well, they wanted to be better, and so they were part of the solution. And my wife and I were training for a marathon. She was actually a massage therapist. She worked in the office. She would do lower and upper extremity lymph massage on our post-op patients. Just did a wonderful job. Everybody loved her, including me. She just went home one afternoon. We were going to go out for a run that night, and the next thing I know, her daughter called me and said that my wife was having a seizure.
Oh, no.
And I said, okay, I'll be right there. Call 911. And I rushed home, and as soon as and her daughter was so afraid and so shaken, she never did CPR or anything on her. So my wife was just lying there for 10 or 15 minutes without any kind of assistance. And by the time I got there, the first responders, the local sheriff's office was there, and they were trying to do CPR, but I could see that she was dead. Now, being kind of the busiest surgeon in Teton County, everybody suddenly knew what was going on. And I had a neighbor who was an ER doc, and he rushed over to see if he could help. And honestly, he did CPR and tried to resuscitate her for an hour. And really, I would have called it long before that. But sadly for my wife, he was able to get a heart rate back. By that time, she was gone. She was in the ICU for a week. We tried to get her to wake up, but she was in a profound coma. All the studies show that she was like brain dead. It was just the most horrible situation I'd been through.
Yeah.
And so with my children at my side, standing at her bedside, we decided to pull the plug. We pulled out the tube, turned off the ventilator, and this woman was so strong, she didn't die. And so they put us in a hospice room, and we expected her to die that night. And the next morning, she's going right along. I mean, she's got a heart rate, but nothing else. And so my oldest daughter, Taylor, who I mentioned earlier, said, "Dad, let's get out of here." So I called my best friend, who is our doctor in Jackson, Brent Blue, and he arranged to have us transported by ambulance back to our house with a dog. And I had this experience on St. Patrick's Day. My dog Doyle, he was ill. He had cancer, and when they get to the end of life, you have to end their suffering for them. And I took Doyle to the vet, and I sobbed like crazy. I mean, I wasn't embarrassed at all, though. I didn't care. And actually, Doyle was my wife's dog, so it was really kind of my last connection with my wife. So we treat our dogs better than we treat our people. So when Meg didn't die, we don't give her food and we don't give her water, and we wait for her to die. And it took her over 7 days to pass.
7 days. Wow.
I sat with her 23 hours a day. And the 1 hour a day I didn't sit with her is the hospice nurses, who, let me tell you, they are angels. Oh, my God. They came in. They would bathe her. They'd put a little makeup on her. They would, wash her hair and braid it. They were just, I couldn't have done it without them. After sitting through that with my wife and seeing what she went through, I couldn't deal with a meniscus tear in the knee anymore or a torn knee ligament. This is not anything. They don't even know what health issues are, honestly. I just couldn't do it. I'd seen just how bad it could be, and I decided I walked out. And for 3 months, it was, you go into a dark place. You don't even realize how dark it is. And I mean, I would make a pot of coffee and pour myself a cup and sit down in the morning and look up the sun setting. I'm going, what the hell just happened? Eventually, I got a call from a mutual friend, Kathy Kendricks. What a sweetheart. She says, "Peter, you need to knock that stuff off. Meg wants she would want you to be happy. She wants you to be happy. You need to get on with life." And so that's when I contacted Judy Zimet. I said, let's get this thing going. I'm going to be an advocate for dogs full time from here on out, and cats.
Right. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, your timing is good because it's been almost 4 years, and until, even last week when I lost Doyle, it was like losing my wife all over again. It was just crushing. But, time, really, it's amazing what time will do in healing all wounds.
You did leave the medical profession, but it sounds like you're really a man of action, right? I mean, you went sort of charged into animal rescue and combining your passion for flying or aviation with animal rescue. Why, of all things, animal rescue? You could have used aviation for a lot of different avenues and venues.
That's true, but dogs don't have a voice. They don't have anybody out there speaking for them. There are a lot of rescue groups out there. They're kind of isolated. They're doing the best that they can. What I thought is, let's see if we can't introduce these people to each other. And I was working with the Animal Adoption Center in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and they were going to set up a collaborative relationship between the San Francisco SPCA, Marty Watts. The San Francisco SPCA is like the model for animal shelters. It's just terrific, and Marty does a great job. When I met with Marty, she said, "Oh, Peter, you need to go down to Merced and meet with Sharon Lohman. This is a woman who could use your help." And it was all about me bringing dogs back to Jackson, Wyoming, and I thought, well, okay, that would be a good thing. But when I met with Sharon and I saw what she was dealing with, I said, "Sharon, where are you sending your dogs?" She says, "Well, once a week we'll load up a van and we'll drive to Salt Lake, and then we'll drive up to Portland. Boy, if we have to go to Seattle, that's a killer. Oh my gosh, it's killing the people who are volunteering for us." I said, "Sharon, I'll do it for you. I can knock those flights off. You use your vans for the local transport." So I started doing a lot of flights, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dogs. And to put it in perspective, they had a 6% adoption rate in Merced. 6%. 94% of the animals who came through the door were euthanized. And these are otherwise healthy animals. That's shameful. So I'm starting to fly hundreds and hundreds of animals out of Merced every week, sometimes twice a week. And their adoption rate because of that, has gone from 6% to 25%. They're still having to kill 75% of the animals that come through the door. That's a human problem. That's not a dog problem. Once I met Sharon and I saw the scope of that, I thought, oh my gosh. And Judy so everyone started contacting Judy because she's like ground control. I tell her when I'm flying, where I can fly, where the weather windows are good, and she'll coordinate all the flights. She'll spend hours and tens of hours on the telephone trying to coordinate all this stuff, getting the health certificate, the transport stuff, making sure the dogs are all vaccinated, making sure that the receiving group understands what animals that they're getting, that they're choosing the ones that they want. They send pictures back and forth on the internet. And then on fly day, they show up at 7 a.m. It takes us about 30, 45 minutes to load the aircraft. With the Caravan, it's not nearly the challenge that it used to be. Kick the tires and light the fires, and then 4 hours later, I'm delivering them to people who they want to be part of the solution. I love the way we have it set up now. We have way more requests than we could possibly handle, but we are always looking for new opportunities if it makes sense for the model that we have and the destination for the animals. We would ask for 3 animals for every flight hour because it costs us $225 to run the machine.
Sure.
When we got the Caravan, we thought, well, gosh, this thing is going to cost us over $500 an hour to operate. But our actual cost per animal has gone down to about $40 an animal.
No kidding.
Because we can carry that many more. So we're on the right path here. Every month, just about every flight, I learned something new. This is how we're going to improve it. This is what we can do. Judy is on top of that, and I couldn't do it without her, honestly. When I fly and I land and I taxi up and the TV cameras are there or the press, and they want to talk to the pilot. You know what? My involvement with these animals lasts about 5 hours. The real heroes here are the people who collected the dogs to send them, the people who are receiving the dogs to socialize and adopt them out, and Judy Zimet, who is coordinating all this stuff. So, I mean, those are the people you really need to talk to, and they're the people who deserve the applause.
Thanks for saying that. Obviously, we all play a part, right? We all play a part, big and small. Any kind of memorable flights that you'd like to share?
A lot of these dogs have issues. I mean, we all have issues. I have issues. And if they chew their way out of their crate and they're running around free in the airplane, this is a problem. And that has happened a number of times. If you go to our Facebook page where we post all the photos from all our flights, and if you ever see a picture of a dog looking out a window, that's a dog that got loose. As long as they're not being aggressive, that's fine. Many times they'll try to force their way up front and sit up front with me. But the most challenge I had, I was flying out of Merced. I had an airplane full of cats and dogs, and my first stop was in Kanab, Utah, which is where the Best Friends rescue group is. That's the group that took the Michael Vick fighting, the pit bulls. So I was dropping off the cats, and as I was unloading the cats, one of the dogs had been able to chew his way out of the crate, and he just took off. Now, it was probably about 110 degrees there. Now, airport is a really quiet airport, so it's not as if there's other traffic and the dog was at risk. I must have chased that dog for about 45 minutes.
Oh, boy.
And finally, I'm thinking, I've got other dogs that are baking in that airplane.
Oh, boy. I
need to get them up to Jackson, Wyoming, which is or Salt Lake, and then Jackson, which is where the next stops were. And then I thought, how is that going to look if I let a dog escape and I leave it at the airport? So I kept running after this thing, and the only reason I caught this little guy is that he finally stepped on a cactus quill, and he became like a tripod. Now he's like running around on 3 legs, and advantage Rork.
Right.
So I was able to finally capture him That was my most memorable flight.
Thank goodness for the cactus.
Thank goodness for the cactus. That's right.
How about the airport staff? I'm sure they've seen their variety of freight. What do they make of a plane full of cats and dogs?
The first time, it's very unique. And they all kind of come out onto the tarmac, and they all want to see what's going on. It's really it's a crowd pleaser. I mean, a lot of people, it's a happy story. I mean, these dogs are being saved, but we tend to use the same FBOs. Now, FBO is an acronym for Fixed Base Operator, which is kind of like the gas station at the airport. Knowing that we are into animal rescue, these folks are the most accommodating individuals for Logan, Utah, or West Jordan, Utah, or Gemini Flight Support, Scottsdale, the Landmark Aviation, AdFlight down in Roswell. I mean, they'll discount their fuel prices by 50% for us.
Oh, wow,
just
wonderful.
Trying to cut us a deal, and they don't charge us to tie down or any parking fee. They're really on the team. I mean, if you can't adopt a dog, then you should volunteer. If you can't volunteer, then you should donate money. And so what these people will do, and Judy is also good at this. She will, I'll tell her, I said, this is where we're flying, and we'll fly into, say, McClellan in Sacramento, or we'll fly into Scappoose, Oregon with dogs. And she'll call ahead and say, this is what we're doing, and I was wondering if you could negotiate a lower fuel price for us. And we've really never have had anybody say no. And I'll tell you, the winners right now, Jackson Jet Center in Boise, Idaho. Oh, my gosh. I mean, they almost give their fuel away for free to me. I mean, they are dog lovers extraordinaire. And I do fly hundreds of dogs into Boise, mostly out of Sacramento and Oakland. But this last trip that I flew out of Scottsdale, and it's the same people who are working there. And so when I taxi on up, they want to look in the window and say, well, how many do you have this trip? So it's good. I mean, I get a lot of support on each end, and it's very helpful.
What do the next 12 months look like for your organization? That's
an excellent question, because we just received this new aircraft. We've had it a month, and we're getting into our busy flying season. During the winter, the weather can be a little rough. In my previous aircraft, we didn't have any de-icing equipment, so that's a problem.
Ooh.
But this one has de-icing boots, and so it can handle more weather. Now, but I flew for a living, and I don't need to fly in hard instrument, bad weather anymore. So I'll use the aircraft to get out of trouble, not find trouble, but it will expand our ability for weather flights. But I'll fly 3 days a week from the 1st of April until the 1st of November. So a typical flight, and the aircraft is based up in Montana. So I'll fly from Polson, Montana, down to Roswell, New Mexico. I'll spend the night. I'll pick up a load of dogs, and I'll fly them to Denver and Salt Lake, fly empty over to Oakland or Sacramento, spend the night, fly a load of dogs up to Boise, Idaho, turn around and fly back to Merced and spend the night, load up the airplane, fly them up to Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, and Spokane, and then head back to Montana. And that's our typical flight. So it's like a W. And I don't like to fly empty, but we do have some deadhead legs. But we're looking at flying 100 animals on each leg, so that's 300 animals a week, so 1,200 animals a month. So we're looking for big things this year.
Could you maybe paint the picture somewhat of the kind of breeds that you see? Typically, I'm thinking pit bulls and chihuahuas when I'm thinking at least California, but what do you see?
Well, a lot of pit bulls and chihuahuas, a lot of chihuahuas, a lot of terrier mixes. We're seeing a lot of German shepherds for whatever reason. I don't know. It's funny because the pit bulls, they're on the hot seat right now. Honestly, it used to be the German shepherds, and then it was the Rottweilers, and then it was the Doberman pinchers, and now it's the pit bulls. But if you've ever had a one-on-one encounter with a pit bull, they are kitty cats. I mean, these dogs are the most gentle animals. And as I keep saying, that It's not a dog problem. These dogs aren't naturally aggressive. It's the people who make them aggressive. I think my next dog is going to be a pit bull. I have two. Doyle was a lab. He was a rescue. Wendell, my other dog, is a lab and a hound mix, and really he's a talker. You can tell he's got hound in him. And the thing that drives me crazy, he only knows one word, which is woot, woot. Which he repeats over and over again, which is okay. But my next dog is got to be a pit bull. I mean, there are tens of thousands of them out there, and they all need a home. These dogs are built like a bag of cement. If you've ever picked one up, they say, they look so small and compact, and then they weigh 80 pounds, and you're going, are you kidding me? Holy smokes, how am I going to pick that animal up? But we're going to be seeing, there's been a skew on the animals that I'm exposed to because we've been limited by the size of the aircraft to taking only the smaller dogs. So out of Merced and out of Scottsdale and Roswell, it's kind of been the Chihuahuas, which is interesting because in the northern Rockies, you don't see Chihuahuas up there. And so we fly these animals up there, and they fly off the shelves. Oh, my gosh. It's like moving the merchandise. And in Missoula, they're crazy for the Chihuahuas. And actually, they just ran an article in the Jackson Hole News and Guide about the changing face of dogs in the community because of the impact that Dog Is My CoPilot has had, flying the Chihuahuas in what they call the California Littles, flying the dogs in from California to Teton County. And
obviously, you're a big piece of that connection. So
otherwise, it couldn't happen because the distance is just too great.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And the gal who authored that article, Johanna, she's way into it, and she's just a terrific gal.
Thank you so much for sharing your story, your personal journey, the story of Dog Is My CoPilot, really highlighting animal rescue. As we wrap up, 2 questions. One is, how do folks find your organization on the web or through social media? And of course, how do they donate? And number 2, really, any other last pieces of wisdom or advice?
Well, yeah, thank you for that. It's you can find us at www.dogcopilot.org. Our Facebook page is Dog Is My CoPilot, but with no hyphen, Inc. And you can see all the photos with our website. There's a donate tab. You can just hit that, click it, and you can pay through PayPal or charge it to your credit card or whatever. And my word of advice to people is don't shop, adopt.
We want to say thank you to Peter Rork for sharing his story. We also want to wish Peter and all the other fathers out there a happy Father's Day. If you want to learn more about Peter, Judy Zimet, and Dog Is My CoPilot, go to our show notes at thisispawprint.com/50. If you'd like to nominate someone to be a future guest on Pawprint, simply email us at thisispawprint@gmail.com or go to our contact page at thisispawprint.com/contact. If you'd like to get 2 free resources from our favorite positive reinforcement dog trainer, Irit Bloom, you can sign up by going to thisispawprint.com/ask, and we'll send you 2 free resources. If you want to meet me or Nancy on social media, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, our profile name is This Is Pawprint, all one word. If you want to listen to more episodes of Pawprint, you can find us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and YouTube. We recommend that you subscribe to get the latest episodes immediately. We want to say thank you to all of you for listening and sharing the story of Pawprint with your friends and family. We've been listened to in 95 different countries. Belarus is the latest one. So thank you, Belarus. You spread a positive message of love and peace by saving an animal. Have a great day, everyone, and see you next time with another great guest on Pawprint.
Pawprint is a production of EVER Education.
You can't handle the truth.